It's the 29th of May. We go on with the work of the Media Center Ukraine. My name is Svetlana Cheparenko, and today we'll be speaking about the tribunal for Putin, which we are all awaiting for that much, and when finally Putin will face trial. So today we have the guests, Yevheniia Kravchuk, Member of Parliament of Ukraine, and Anton, Korynevych, Ukraine's ambassador at large and acting director of the Department General for International Law at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and agent of Ukraine before the International Court of Justice. Hello. So 2 weeks ago, the Council of Europe has supported the creation of tribunal for Putin and the war criminals. How did this meeting take place, and is it important for Ukraine and the whole world? Hello, everyone. Maybe you have followed these events, starting obviously with the 9th of May, when we had the meeting of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, and it was broader than just European Union. Council of Europe is more than 46 countries, member countries, because those could be also associated members who have the status of observers. So then there was the political support. And in Luxembourg, they already had the meeting of the Committee of Ministers of the Council of Europe. So in fact, all of the countries gave a decree to the Secretary General of the Council of Europe, Alain Berset, to sign the bilateral deal with Ukraine and to create all of the other legal steps to launch the creation of this special tribunal. But I would like, as a member of the delegation of PACE, to tell you about the background and to tell why it is important. Because simultaneously, we've got lots of news about the negotiations, about that Russia is providing some of the crazy conditions and so on, but still, which are unacceptable. But simultaneously, there are lots of countries and a huge political support to create the tribunal. So in fact, what this tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine is, that is the third, if I'm not mistaken, and Anton may correct me, it's the third in the history of humanity tribunal of such type after Nuremberg and Tokyo. Both of those were created so that we could put to trial those who waged World War II. And there were also other tribunals, of course. I also visited the one in The Hague and the one what was left after the tribunal on the crimes in Yugoslavia when Milosevic was on trial and other criminals were. But this tribunal was created by the Security Council of the UN. So obviously, in our case, this is the way which would be impossible because Russia is in the UN Security Council and blocking any justified justice or court. So why do we need the tribunal at all? Because in the International Criminal Court, where they have, for instance, the warrant for the arrest warrant of Putin, and they consider other cases, there is no such a crime as crime of aggression. It's the basic crime when the political military leadership of one country make a decision to attack, to violently change the borders of another country. After that, obviously, other crimes are becoming possible. The war crimes, which also need to be prosecuted, we can speak about that in the context of justice, but this lacune in the international agenda should be filled with the tribunal, this gap. And then there should be, between the Council of Europe and Ukraine, there was a signing process where they defined that the tribunal should take place in The Hague. I think that Mr. Korynevych will tell more about that, but the political support exists. There is the core group, which goes on following so that it could be implemented. And I would like to remind you that everything started with, as it seemed to us, necessary thing. And it would be just, we would think. Other countries may think that it's just an illusion, but just a sentence in the PACE resolution in 2022, instantly after the beginning of the full-scale invasion, when we drove away Russia from the Council of Europe. And Council of Europe is the only international organization which does not have Russia. OSCE, the UN have never done that. So this wording has been used. We rephrased the Nuremberg Tribunal. We added it to the resolution, and undoubtedly the resolution on its own cannot be implemented because it should be a very thorough work of the experts, the support on the political level, and the faith that it is possible. And it was mentioned by President Zelensky on a permanent basis that it should be a just peace. There should be justice. So we do hope that in 2026 the tribunal at least will start some of the organizational things so that it could for instance, hire people and begin the work. So as for the details, I think it's the question to Anton. Still, I would like to say that Anton has taken part in all of the meetings of the core group. I don't know how many there were there, but it's a very thorough work to develop those documents, legal ones, the statute, and so on. It's a painstaking work which would make possible the liability of the top political and military leadership of Russia. Anton, let us really speak about the timeline of the further work. What are the next steps and how much time may take each of them? Hello, thank you so much for the invitation to be involved in today's discussion. As of now, from the legal point of view, we have prepared 3 drafts of the documents to create a special tribunal. The draft of the deal between the Council, the Ukraine, the draft of the statute, the main document, which the special tribunal will leave to, and the draft of the expanded deal, which is signed within the Council of Europe, and it will create the management committee, where the countries will be able to take part as members or associated members, and thus in the administrative and financial way they will be able to support the work of the special tribunal. So the core group, which was mentioned by Yevheniia, which I had the honor to coordinate for the 2.5 years, has developed 3 drafts of the documents. They are ready. And really, in Lviv on the 9th of May, these documents, in fact, were politically supported at the level of the ministers of foreign affairs of the participant countries of core group. It was the final meeting of the core group at the level of the political leaders, not just advisors as it used to be before. So it was really a very important point, and we heard the feedback from the Lviv representatives that it was the biggest one in Lviv, including the process of the full-scale invasion. And it's very important that after that we had Luxembourg, the 14th of May, the ministers' meeting of the Committee of Ministers of Council of Europe, where Ukraine officially was not only having the political steps, but also practical ones. We gave the letter to Alain Berset, Secretary General, with the request to create a special tribunal, and we gave 3 drafts of the documents. And besides the ceremonial part, we have the legal outcome. That's important as well. The same day, the 14th of May, the Committee of Ministers took a decision with the help of which they supported the draft of the documents, which were finalized within the work of the core group. They supported the letter with all of the necessary annexes from Ukraine, and also it supported and decided that the creation of the special tribunal is a priority for the Council of Europe, and Secretary General of this organization has to manage the process of the creation of the tribunal within the organization. So what did take place after the 14th of May? Since the informal group of advisors, the process of the creation of special tribunal moved to Strasbourg, to the Council of Europe, which is very important because undoubtedly it's important for us to have the international framework and the support for the creation of special tribunal. What will take place then? Now our colleagues in Strasbourg are thinking how the way will be created to promote this topic within the Council of Europe. Soon we are expecting for certain understanding of the plan of this work. It's also okay, because some time is needed for that, because the international organizations are not creating special tribunals every day. So when we'll have a certain understanding of the plan of actions within the Council of Europe, we'll be speaking more specifically about the timing and the time limits. But what's also obvious, as the document drafts are ready, we are convinced convinced that within the Council of Europe there shouldn't be any additional stops or obstacles on this way. And in fact, we do hope for the fast track in this process, as the tribunal should become reality. Well, it is already closer to reality. It's approaching of becoming a reality, because this is the part of the formal process within the Council of Europe. So that it has become reality, the Committee of the Ministers of Council of Europe has to support the final idea and provide in fact, the necessary errand to the Secretary General or an assignment, and to do it till the end of the year. As Yevheniia said, it's totally possible, so if everything is okay, the launch of the work of the tribunal may take place soon. We, as the government of Ukraine, are doing everything possible so that it could be done as soon as possible. And one more detail which I'd like to add, and it seems to me it's important. The special tribunal, as it was mentioned by Yevheniia, is just about the crime of aggression, because other international crimes are covered by other jurisdictions and courts, in particular ICC. But the crime of aggression is the beginning of the responsibility for the aggressive war. So we can take to liability the commanders and the top management of this country for the war itself. It's not the crime of one person. Obviously, this is the crime of many persons, and it's important for each of them to get certain verdicts. And we're not only speaking about one state. We have at least several other countries which are committing crimes of aggression against our country, and against some of them, the international community couldn't develop the mechanism of liability for dozens of years. So this special tribunal, in fact, is not just about Russia. It's also about other states which are helping them in their aggression against Ukraine, and they are conducting this aggression with their own actions. So that's very important that the stage of the expert work within the core group should be over. This work should move to the level of Council of Europe, Strasbourg, and from our behalf we'll do everything possible so that this work could be done quicker, and we'll be grateful for the support of our delegation in PACE and other colleagues who will be working there, so that they could also follow the efficient movement forward of this process within the Council of Europe. As you mentioned, the tribunal is not done every day. So what's the difference of this tribunal, Putin and other allied countries? What will be the difference from other ones? Will it be unique? You know, in any case, it will be special, because we have a very special situation, an aggressive war of Russia against Ukraine, the war which the European continent hasn't seen for more than 80 years. So obviously it will be special, and it's okay, because in the history of humanity, almost all of the tribunals were different from each other, and only some of them were really similar. This tribunal will be unique because it will consider only one crime, in its case, the crime of aggression, but it's again normal because there are other jurisdictions. It will be the first tribunal for the crime of aggression after the Nuremberg and Tokyo tribunals. So this is also a kind of comparison of what we had in the 40s and what we have now. So we would like, and we can see the creation of this tribunal now, while the war is ongoing. We do not see any need to wait till the end of the war. This tribunal will be an international authority on its own, with its own agency. It will not be dependent on anyone, and it will have the opportunity to take such decisions which it will consider to be reasonable, and it'll have some more special legal characteristics. Well, we shouldn't speak about all of them, but one of them is the opportunity to have full-scale trials in absentia, and to also give the rulings in absentia. That's what the modern other international criminal tribunals do not have. How many allies do we have now, as of today? In the core group, yes, the core group is 40 countries, but we do understand that besides them, we have Council of Europe, the European Union, which is really supporting this process, and we can see that we will have, I hope so, more support, so that we would have the decision in the Committee of Ministers in the Council of Europe, so that we could move on. Because when other countries see the movement forward in this direction and active work conducted, this number will grow. I can provide the comparison with a different tool, that is Register of Damage. It is also created by the Council of Europe. It also started with a smaller number of countries. Now it's more than 40 now. But as for the Register of Damages, the countries of G7 also involved. They are not in the Council of Europe, like Japan or Canada. They have a special status of observers, but they take part in the process. And really, the EU as an entity, and by the way, Kaja Kallas, as the second person in the European Commission, used to visit Lviv, and she declared the support of the European Union. So let me remind that Council of Europe is bigger, wider than the EU. And it's important there. I know that the journalists need to create news, right, out of this meeting. Which countries, in fact, we can talk about besides Russian Federation? Of course, it's Belarus, first of all, as a country, which provided its territory, its aerodromes, so all of the infrastructure for the invasion of Russian troops into Ukraine. So the name of the tribunal talks about the crime of aggression against Ukraine, and who helped this crime besides Russia will be found out by the prosecutors, who will provide the cases, the judges will make decisions, but obviously Belarus is the first candidate besides the Russian Federation, and undoubtedly what will be harder, of course, is North Korea, which is providing not only weapons and armament, but in fact, in Kursk direction, we have seen the troops of the regular army of North Korea. It will be harder there in this case, because still this is the territory of Russian Federation. But we are conducting, and we have conducted our defense campaign there, because, well, there was an invasion onto our territory, and the troops faced there the North Koreans. So why do I emphasize it's important legally of this trial in absentia? Because, for instance, ICC, International Criminal Court, in its mandate, does not have an opportunity to put to trial the people for when they are not there in absentia. So after these warrants, after those arrest warrants for anybody, they were suspended because it's impossible to take these people. But in case of the International Tribunal, and it's also very important, as far as I know, it has been debated for a long time, this opportunity to give a verdict in absentia of the perpetrator. It will be possible. And as of the punishment, unfortunately, we will not have death penalty because we have the Human Rights Convention signed, but we are speaking about the confiscation, by the way, of the property, including the territory of all of the countries which joined this tribunal. What about Iran, which is an ally for Russia? It's only North Korea and Belarus? Well, I think that the tribunal itself and the judges need to decide that. They will be speaking not about the responsibility of the countries, but of individual management of these states, because the tribunals have the decision that the most severe crimes are committed by certain individuals. So we are speaking about the leaders of certain countries. Could it be more than the two countries mentioned above? It's for the discretion of the tribunal. But as for these two states, we can see the direct aggression according to the definition of the aggression in the international law. They provided their territory and direct participation of the regular troops. Obviously, we can foresee something there. As for other countries, I think that the judges of the tribunals will have everything so that they could take the well-weighted and the proper decision. And what's also important, and it may be explained how it is done in the documents, at least in the documents, as in the case with the Register of Damage, it is not mentioned that we are speaking only about 2022. According to the Register of Damages, and we are constantly raising this issue, that the Register of Damages should start with 2014. And here we can see specifically 2022. Obviously, we will be able to amend it, but so far the statements or the submission of the documents about the property, about the damage, about the death, about the kidnapping is considered since 2022. That is the 24th of February, 2022. But in this case, this date, the beginning date, what year we are speaking about, will be decided by the court itself, the judge himself, herself, the tribunal itself. It's better than to limit it in the documents instantly with 2022. Definitely, the issue of 2022 is connected because the aggression is acknowledged in the resolution of the Secretary General of the UN in 2022. But our definite and steadfast position is that the Russian aggression started in 2014. Beginning with the temporary occupation of the Crimea and Sevastopol city, and also the beginning of the war in Donetsk and Luhansk regions. Different countries have different understanding when it starts, this jurisdiction starts of this new authority, but as the result of our work, we came to the proper conclusion that the special tribunal, the judges themselves, in each separate case, in each separate situation, for instance, prosecutor versus citizen A, the prosecutor versus citizen B, they will make a conclusion when the citizen has committed aggression against Ukraine. So definitely the tribunal will be open to consider that it could be 2014 or a bit later. So it's important. It used to be important for us, and it is in the drafts of the statutes. And it seems to us that it gives us a good foundation for the understanding that what is taking place did not start in 2022. In 2022, we had escalation, but the Russian aggressive war has started in 2014. You've mentioned this collision about the beginning of the aggression. When do we start and calculate this responsibility? Which are the political or legal complications our group is facing, used to face, and is facing still in this sphere of the creation of the tribunal? Well, a bit more than 3 years passed. The statute is ready. Someone may think that it's a lot, but in fact, it's a good period of time because really we needed to analyze everything, to find the proper formulas, wording, decisions, solutions. And again, we are speaking about the creation of the new authority of the international criminal law, international criminal justice. Sometimes we spend more time, decades of time, for the processes within the country. And here we have the outcome already. For me, it's important that we as lawyers, as the advisors, we have done our work. The documents are given officially to the Council of Europe. And now we hope and will do everything possible so that the Council of Europe could also do its part and the tribunal could become a reality. On our way to that, undoubtedly we had lots of discussions, lots of different challenges, because obviously when in the room you have approximately 100 of lawyers from 40 countries, each of them can have their own vision and understanding. They can have different attitude towards the crime of aggression. It's totally okay. The main thing is to achieve the outcome and to understand that it is the main thing. This is our job, result-oriented work. And that's what took place, and it's nice to hear and see that this legal work has been done. Now we hope that at this track of work within the Council of Europe, everything will still be efficient and active, and we do hope that there won't be any extra challenges or questions. And of course, we will also be doing everything possible to help as quick development of this process in Strasbourg as possible. Let me also add that the Council of Europe does not have the veto right as it is in the EU. Or even in OSCE, because they have the consensus -1 principle. Russia and Belarus are blocking the budget, anything. In the case of Council of Europe, these decisions are taken by 2/3. The majority of the votes is a huge political support. But formally speaking, some Hungary or Serbia will never block this decision at the level of the Council of Europe. And obviously, the political support is there. By the way, in the end of June, since the 23rd of June, we'll have the June session of Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe. We'll have Alain Berset as the Secretary General of the organization. So I think that the creation of the tribunal and the further steps for its creation will be the top topic. And everybody will be asking about that. I'm sure that some timeline will also be presented. It's good that Anton corrected me that they did not make this errand, but they will. And after the signing, there should be the formal signing of that between the Council of Europe, Alain Berset will sign it, and the government of Ukraine. So after that, this deal will get to the ratification in Verkhovna Rada, the parliament, but it will be as quick as possible with the maximum number of votes, and definitely there won't be any delays. But obviously, later this process will take some time to select the judges, the prosecutors. It's good that we have this prosecutors part, the beginning tool, I would say, for the prosecutors part. It's already in The Hague and it is working, and obviously it will be used, but again, those will be the countries which will be contributors. They will be able to give the candidates for the judges and so on, for the employees. And what's also important, the verdicts, the rulings won't be done from behalf of Ukraine. It will be international. This is the verdict which has the international weight. And in fact, it's obvious that Ukraine and the Prosecutor General's office will be involved a lot because, as far as I understand, they need to submit the documents. We suspect this and that in the crime of aggression, but then it will be the international work, the prosecutors from other countries, and we are interested so that it couldn't be Ukraine versus Russia and that's it. It is a certain international weight. I would like to come back to the question of the support, political support of the creation of the tribunal. Is Ukraine interested? Well, it is interested to expand the number of allies, but why is it important? And do you plan any advocacy campaign among the countries who are not in the PACE? Well, this work is conducted on a permanent basis. We'll go on doing that. Undoubtedly, we are interested in the expanded representation of the countries within the managing committee, which will support the work of the tribunal, because this is the issue of legitimacy and the weight of the authority. The bigger support is, the bigger legitimacy is. So the participation of countries from different regions is important. We have the participation of countries from different regions, in particular from the Pacific and others. But of course, so far, those are mostly countries from European or Euro-Atlantic region. We will go on doing everything possible so that the number of the states from other regions could be increased. And again, I hope that when we see that this track, this issue is close to finalization, I think that then we'll be able to see, as in the case of register of damage, as Yevheniia says, the growth of support. And undoubtedly, it will be important for us. But even now, we see this, we have this necessary number, if you'd like me to say that, so that it could be promoted now. We have everything for that. Thank you so much. We all hope that it will be moving on quickly and justice will really be recovered, restored. Every Ukrainian is hoping for that. Thank you for your work. Let me remind you that we were talking about the creation of tribunal for Putin and his allies, and Media Center Ukraine will go on with its work tomorrow. Please stay with us.